Hi, I'm Glenn Simpson, and I've collected comics for over 40 years. So I'm here to show off my collection one box at a time. Today we're going to be looking at a run of Amazing Spider-Man. If there are any comics in any of my videos that I skip over and that you'd like to see, be sure to leave a comment and I'll put together a special video showing those. Let's go. All right, we're starting up where we left off with Amazing Spider-Man. We're at 175 with the Punisher versus the Hitman with Spider-Man caught in between. Got some great Ross Andru art there. We're going to try to go fast because there's so many kind of keys and special issues here that they're not bundled up like a lot of the stuff is that you've seen in other videos. So we've got 176 with What Have You Done to Flash Thompson? And is it the Green Goblin? It looks like it's going to be the Green Goblin. Let's see what we learn from the next issue. Why, I guess it is. It is the Green Goblin has returned. I am trying to remember. I think this is Harry. I could be wrong about that, but I think this is Harry Osborn as Green Goblin here in that issue. Then we go to, no, I'm sorry, now I remember, because I remember having this one also, like my brother had it or something when I was a kid. So I believe this is the Bart Hamilton psychiatrist. You're supposed to think it's Harry, but it's actually the Bart Hamilton, his psychiatrist. Sorry for the spoilers. Classic issue there with a cover, classic cover. I think we've seen that in a few places. And then I don't remember why, but I skipped to issue 181. And we've got a Gil Kane cover here. I remember always looking at this cover and having a hard time figuring out who that was, because now I understand it's Doc Ock, but there's just something about it looked like the Hulk to me for a long time when I would look at that. But that's Amazing Spider-Man 181. I must have reprints of the ones I'm missing somewhere else, and so therefore I did not spend the extra money like in Marvel Tales. I probably have 79 and 80 over in Marvel Tales, so I did not rebuy them here in Amazing Spider-Man. If I got it in any kind of format, I usually don't buy it in another format most of the time. Anyway, Amazing Spider-Man 182, Rocket Racer's back in town. Gotta deal with the Rocket Racer. And then we go to 183. We've got continuing that Rocket Racer versus a Big Wheel. Rocket Racer thought he had wheels, but not as big as the Big Wheels. Big Wheels. Got 184. Amazing Spider-Man versus the White Dragon. Getting into some stuff over in Chinatown, if I remember correctly. 185. Peter Parker actually graduates from, I believe this is his college graduation. I think this is the one where he finds out that he's missing one gym credit, and so he doesn't really graduate because he's Peter Parker and nothing can ever go right for him. Something like that going on. Then we've got 186. Kind of a beauty cover, kind of a non-story specific cover, but he is cleared by the police, and he is a national hero, so I guess he's celebrating being cleared by the police, so that's kind of involved with the story. Oh, I had a copy of this. This is not, I don't think this is my original. I had a copy of this one when I was a kid too. Amazing Spider-Man 187 with Captain America. I think this was probably my first comic that had Captain America in it. And I had to understand what the plague was. That there's literally the bubonic plague plays a role in this book. And that's when I learned what the bubonic plague was. Alright, we go to Amazing Spider-Man 188. Spider-Man going up against, I believe that would be Jigsaw from Punisher. Dave Cockrum cover there. Stuff to stuff. Oh, here we have a little bundle. We've got 189 with, I can't remember who that is, but I always thought that coloring was interesting. And that would be a John Byrne cover, if I'm not, yep, John Byrne. The lighting effect there was really neat. And then that bundle jumps to 193, Spider-Man facing the human fly, or the fly. It's not a bad, I always like this, that costume, pretty cool. 95. Got a lot going on. Oh, I skipped one, sorry. Still right here. We've got the first appearance of the Black Cat in Amazing Spider-Man 194. That's of course in the top loader and the top loader box. If you didn't see my earlier video, I bought some top loaders once upon a time and didn't realize they weren't going to fit in the regular box. And then, but once I had them, I'm too cheap to throw them out or replace them, so I stuck with it. And now I have a separate box for the highest value things. And I try to remember to to show them in the appropriate spot when we get to them in the videos here. So that's Amazing Spider-Man 194. Let me kind of set that off to the side here. Oh, and my little note, it's a Mark Jewelers, and I thought it was an 8.5, and I changed my mind and decided it was a 9.0. Neither one could be right, quite frankly. So anyway, 195, we got Black Cat showing up here. We've got kind of a variety of things going on in Peter's life. And then we go to 198. We've got a Spider-Man going up against Mysterio. All of you Spider-Man, what is it, No Way Home fans will appreciate that. No, Far From Home, that's it. We go to 199. Continuing that Mysterio story going on and Amazing. And we go to issue 200. We're kind of flashing back to the origin of Spider-Man, kind of more of a modern retelling of the events. So if you're one of those people that really doesn't like, Silver Age storytelling, now granted this is still 79 storytelling, but still, if you want to jump forward a few years, Amazing Spider-Man is retelling that origin story. And we've got 201, bringing back the Punisher, starting to, his popularity. They must have gotten a lot of letters and stuff saying how much people liked the Punisher, because he's starting to make his mark. I don't think we're quite at the point where he has his own book yet. 202, Spider-Man and the Punisher up against gang members and things and hoods and stuff. Good. 203. We've got Spider-Man meeting the Dazzler from over on the X-Men side of things and helping her fight, I think, Lightmaster, if I remember correctly. So, little X-Men crossover there. 204. We've got another Black Cat story. This is before she actually got like her bad luck powers, but she wanted people to think that she had bad luck powers, so she would rig things to go off at weird times, or she would have theoretically put a little explosive under that thing to make it just fall over at the right time. That was what the official handbook said. It was a little hard to believe that she could really pre-plan all that, but that was the idea, was that her bad luck powers at that point were just her doing things on purpose. And we've got another continuing that Black Cat storyline, artwork by Al Milgrom. Never my favorite, but nevertheless a classic Marvel artist. We're going to jump to 208. Hey, it's Fusion, the Twin Terror. Spider-Man can't beat them, or can he? Amazing Spider-Man 208. 209. We have Spider-Man going up against our buddy Craven and Alan Weiss, if I remember correctly. Cover there. Beauty, beauty, beauty. Then I'm not going to forget to grab the next one that's from the top loader box. We've got Amazing Spider-Man 210. First appearance of Madam Web, who, of course, in no way resembles Madam Web from the Madam Web movie. But hey, this is the first appearance of the character with that name. She is kind of she can see the future, and she guides Spider-Man on various things that he needs to do. Then we go to 211. We've got Spider-Man going up against Namor, the Submariner, that's how I pronounce it. And he's upset about some stuff. I think that leads up. This must have been a multi-part story, because he's still teaming up with Namor here in 215. I'm not confused, am I? Yeah, we got it all good. Yeah, 211 to 215. We've got him going up against is it the Frightful Four? Oh, which four is it? I think it's the Frightful Four. Got Lyra and the Wizard, Sandman, Pacepot Pete, aka the Trapster, and I think Lyra is from Atlantis, and that's what brought Namor into it. We've got 216, another appearance of Madam Web. I guess that's her second appearance. We've got Amazing Spider-Man 217. What do you get when you mix Hydro Man and the Sandman? What are you gonna do, Spider-Man? Well, when you mix them, you end up with a big mud monster, obviously. So Spider-Man has to deal with the with Mud Monster in Amazing Spider-Man 218. Amazing Spider-Man 219. Frank Miller cover on here. Peter Parker sent to jail for a crime he did not commit. And got that cool Spider-Man. Frank Miller, back when he had to do what an editor told him to do to some degree. 220. We've got, this is another sort of early, not when I was a kid, but you know, I got this Amazing Spider-Man because I got all the Moon Knight appearances at some point, and so this was what would be one of those that I got. So we've got an early appearance of Moon Knight here, and he is doing his thing with Spider-Man in a coffin there in Amazing Spider-Man 220. Then we have Amazing Spider-Man 221 going up against Ramrod, Crisis on Campus. And Spider-Man is dealing with some things going on, some protests and things going on the ESU campus, Empire State University. And we jump to Amazing Spider-Man 224. Spider-Man going up against the Vulture once again, and you could win a Columbia 10-speed Formula 10 racer. I wonder if anybody did. Amazing Spider-Man 225 going up against Fool Killer. He is kind of an anti-hero, mostly villain. He's a nut job. If he feels that you fit his criteria of a fool, you are foolish in some way, he's got a gun that can disintegrate you. And he is not afraid to use it. He is before Mr. T. He doesn't just pity the fool, he disintegrates the fool. We go to Amazing 226. She's back, the Black Cat. Another appearance of the Black Cat here in Amazing Spider-Man. Got to 227. Got the continuing this latest Spider-Man versus Black Cat storyline. They're not yet dating or anything. They're still dancing around each other. Amazing Spider-Man 228. I think this had something to do with a man who was murdered by a bunch of spiders, and so everybody assumed that Spider-Man could control spiders, and so they came after him for that murder, and he had to prove himself innocent, something like that. Don't quote me on that. Let's see, 229. One of the a famous storyline with Spider-Man going up against the Juggernaut and Madam Web, getting her out of the way. Another sort of X-Men tie-in that happens every once in a while. Number 230 of Spider-Man, continuing Spider-Man's fight with the Juggernaut of X-Men fame. Got a little bundle here. Amazing Spider-Man number 231. Where he fights the Cobra, who is frequently a partner of Mr. Hyde, but I think it's just the Cobra here. He does not yell Cobra. He is not a member of Cobra. He is a completely different kind of Cobra. Let's see. Then we have 234. Hey, it's the Will-O-The-Wisp is back. I did a reel at a short that some people might have seen, snipping out that part from a previous video. So I'll be sure to mention, maybe I'll do another one here of Amazing Spider-Man versus Will-O-The-Wisp in Amazing 234. And we go to 235. Amazing Spider-Man. We've got the Will-O-The-Wisp. We've got this would be the Tarantula, who normally doesn't look like that, but he must have gotten mutated in some way, and Spider-Man is trying to help them or stop them or help stop them. We got 236. Continuing that fight, Tarantula. Things have gotten worse for that old Tarantula there. He doesn't seem to be doing too well. Then we go to 237. One of the most deadly of Marvel villains, the Stilt Man, with his ability to his armor that enables him to stand really, really tall. And there's just, how do you fight that? I mean, how do you stop somebody like that? It's like the ultimate power. Then that brings us to, of course, Amazing Spider-Man 238, first appearance of Hobgoblin. My tattoos are missing. I don't know how that would grade if it was sent in. The little packet is there, but it's been torn open and the tattoos removed. But and I don't know what happened to them. I don't even know why it was torn open. I think, but it is what it is, and it's my original copy. And so I remember I got this book, actually, a co-worker of my father's had bought his son a Spider-Man subscription, and the kid decided he didn't like Spider-Man, something like that, and so he brought me the issues. He brought them to my dad, and my dad brought them home to me. Although this is the only one I remember doing that with. I'm not sure. I don't remember the rest of them being part of that. But maybe he just bought the one issue for him or something. So I didn't even buy this. It was given to me. So cool stuff. Cool stuff. Let's see. We've we've got 239. Try not to damage my comics making this video. We've got continue that fight with the Hobgoblin. John Romita Jr. JR artwork going on there. We've got a bundle. We've got 240. Another fight with the Vulture. When you go this fast, it's like, oh, he's fighting the Vulture again. But you know, at the time, of course, there's plenty of time in between. And we've got 243. We've got Spider-Man, you know, dealing with some thugs, but also some woman troubles. I don't remember her name, but you know, she doesn't get. That's not Gwen Stacy. She doesn't get mentioned much, but she's another female who's on Peter's radar, or vice versa. I'll have to remember her name and look her up so I can be a smart ass next time somebody says, should it be Mary Jane? I'm like, no, it should be her. Yep. Then we go to Amazing Spider-Man 244. Spider-Man back in the fight with the Hobgoblin. Going on there. We go to Amazing 247. He is casting a shadow on these thugs that he's about to start fighting with. The fact that the way the shadow works there always struck me as funny. It looks like kind of like Deadpool's little nubby thing on the top of his mask. That's just the way the shadow is supposed to be going. We have classic issue Amazing Spider-Man 248, including the kid who collects Spider-Man. So this was the main story, Spider-Man fighting Thunderball of the Wrecking Crew, but there was a backup story where Spider-Man meets a kid who idolizes him, and he goes and meets him, takes him for a swing around the town, and winds up revealing his secret identity to him. And then, of course, we find out that the kid is terminally ill, so there's not going to be any risk of Spider-Man having revealed his identity. But he did something nice for the kid. Amazing 250. We've got the climax of the battle with the Hobgoblin, or a semi-climax there. I always like this corner box. It's great. Steal it. And they've got that fight going on, and then at the end of that, we think that the Hobgoblin is dead, but you know, nobody stays dead. But now we've got Ed Hannigan did a ton of covers. Ed Hannigan did for DC and Marvel. A lot of just kind of layouts where he just, you know, he decided what they should look like and generally drew it really loosely, and then the other artists would come in and really finish it in, which in this case it was Klaus Janson that did the rest of that art. One, and oops, there we go. Here's the biggie. Got Amazing Spider-Man 252. One of the first appearances of the black suit. Spider-Man had gone into the Secret Wars gateway, presumably back here in this issue, and has returned in the next issue. And he's got his new black suit that responds to his thoughts. And what he doesn't know is that it's actually an alien creature that is living off of him symbiotically. That is 252. And we go to 253. Next appearance. Spider-Man in his black suit, dealing with the Rose, who is the son of, I think we eventually find out it's the son of Wilson Fisk. And there's Spider-Man's in his black suit fighting him. Okay, so that's 253. And we jump to 255. Spider-Man dealing with the Red Ghost and his super apes. So they're kind of Fantastic Four villains, a Soviet guy goes up into space with himself and 3 apes, and they get similar powers to the Fantastic Four and come back and become villains. And we later we learned that the apes are actually, you know, fully intelligent. At this time it was like, oh, he's got them trained, you know, kind of thing. Then we go to 256. Spider-Man dealing with the Puma. I don't think this is the first appearance of Puma. I think the first Puma is it's a funny word. Puma is in over in Spectacular, I think. But the fact that this is a red dot in my collection, that I could be wrong about this. This could be their first Puma. Let's see, 257. We have the continuing the fight with the Puma and in the black suit, and then that leads us into another big issue, 258, which is when Spider-Man learns that the suit is alive, and he has to try to get it off, and it doesn't want to leave him, and he struggles with that whole issue, dealing with the fact that the suit is alive. And then we go to 259. We're kind of seeing Spider-Man get back into his old togs. We've got this is a kind of an homage to one of the earlier covers with Spider-Man's, like, you know, individual little boxes showing how his gear is all set up. Got Ron Friend's cover here. He did an interesting Mary Jane. His Mary Jane was not what I, you know, not quite as glamorous as a lot of them. She'd gone away for a while, I think, and came back, and had been, you know, living a bit of a rough life. And this is before she has, you know, gone to the supermodel level of things. 259, 260. We're back into the fight with the Hobgoblin. Hobgoblin coming after Harry Osborn. Probably something to do with the fact that the Hobgoblin is using the Green Goblin's equipment, and had just, has dyed it a different color for the most part, but that's where he got his stuff. 261. We've got another, this is a Charles Vess. Yes, Charles Vess cover showing the Hobgoblin. He's got Spider-Man on the ropes. Charles Vess, one of the more sort of artistic-y cover artists at that time. And we go from one of the more artistic artists to a photo cover. They did a few of these. They were kind of interesting. This was pre-cosplay as a big deal in your day-to-day life, and pre-internet, so you didn't know that other people were cosplaying if they were. And so pretty neat to see a real live human being, in the costume and stuff. So I remember really liking that cover. There's a Spider-Woman cover that has lots of actors and models and members of the Marvel bullpen dressed up as the characters. So maybe, I don't know who this guy is, maybe he went out on a date with the Spider-Woman model at some point. We've got Amazing 264 with Red 9. This was something about, this was kind of a, not earth-shattering, something about this guy was at first threatening the old folks at the old folks home that Aunt May lived in, but then he winds up becoming their little hero and taking care of them, something along those lines. 265. The Fox is a thief in the classic sense. I don't know if they'd established the relationship. I think he's the one that taught the Black Cat, and but he's here and he's gotten himself into some trouble. 265. Got a little bundle here. 266. So Daredevil had a foe called the Frogman, and he fought him a couple of times, and he was ridiculous. So then the son of the Frogman gets the suit and decides to become a superhero called Leapfrog. Meanwhile, you've got the Toad from the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants that had fought the X-Men quite a few times, and he too was sort of deciding to become a hero. And the fact that their shtick was too much the same brings them into a little bit of conflict that Spider-Man has to deal with. Now, and he is in just a cloth version of his black suit, because despite the fact that the first one was an alien symbiote, he still figured out it looked cool. So then we jump to 270. Okay, this is a heavily referenced issue in my life. So in this issue, Firelord, who is one of the heralds of Galactus after Silver Surfer, comes to Earth, and I can't remember what his problem is, but he's tearing up some stuff. He's doing some damage. Spider-Man says, "Okay, I'm going to stop you," and with all of his might, with everything he's got, manages to put the Firelord down. And there's, lots of comments on, oh, wow, I didn't know Spider-Man was that tough, etc., so on. So if you're a power scaler and you're, looking for feats, if I understand that's how the kids call them, then Amazing Spider-Man 270 is one such feat-laden book. 271, we've got Spider-Man going up against Manslaughter. Hood there that he's dealing with. We've got 274, a anniversary issue. We've got the Secret Wars 2 issue. So in Secret Wars, a mysterious being called the Beyonder gathers together the heroes of Earth and heroes and villains and makes them fight so that he can understand humanity. In Secret Wars 2, the Beyonder, as he's called, comes to Earth and takes form. And I think in this issue he's battling Mephisto, and Spider-Man is caught in the middle, and all of his memories are being the things that are good and the things that are bad in his life get brought up. Let's see. And then we go to Amazing Spider-Man 275, another is that a Friends cover? Can't tell. Spider-Man back in battle with the Hobgoblin. Also another telling of the origin of Spider-Man. So if you're, once again, if you're looking for a modern retelling of Spider-Man, now it's going to be told in 1985-ish writing style. Let's see. Got 276. So this is where they capture Hobgoblin. He's unmasked, and they reveal that he is Flash Thompson, Spider-Man's friend. However, we know he's not really Flash Thompson. He's somebody else, sort of. Let's see. We go to 277. This one was kind of an inventory story. Somebody must have been falling behind on timing, because I don't know. It's just kind of a weird issue. It's Spider-Man goes and rescues this little girl from a magical monster. But there's some other, I think it's 2 short stories, and so maybe they just couldn't do a full-length story, so they just did a short story and then an inventory story in there. We go to 279. Where is Spider-Man? So there was a previously missing in action is the storyline where Peter gets stuck in kind of amongst some rednecks. Can't remember. He's in an asylum, I believe, and he can't get out. And so everybody's kind of looking for him, and that includes Silver Sable, the Nazi hunting mercenary, and she winds up fighting Jack O'Lantern over here along the way. And we go to issue 280. Spider-Man's back, and he's got to go up against the Sinister Syndicate, We've got, it's a pretty motley crew here. We've got Hydro Man, Boomerang, Rhino, Beetle, Speed Demon. So I don't know what they're going to do. What are they going to do? They're going to win. No, they'll win. They'll be all right. 281 continues that story. All those names I just read off are listed here. I didn't cheat. They're right there, even though they were right there. So we're continuing that fight. Then we hit the famous portrait cover or frame cover for a month. All of the Marvel books looked like this. They had the same border, and they did different interpretations of the main hero. Of course, with Spider-Man, there's 3 or 4 different titles, so there's 3 or 4 different versions. Amazing, spectacular, that type of thing. But the border is always the same. Pretty. Amazing Spider-Man 283, the Absorbing Man and Titania, who had met and fallen in love as supervillains. Don't always do, but in this case they did. She was first seen over in the Secret Wars, and he is a classic Thor villain who can turn into anything he touches. And Spider-Man seems to be in some trouble there. Then we go to 285. The Punisher is back. Now he's clearly got his own book at this point. His book, at least the covers, are drawn by Mike Zeck. Mike Zeck doing this cover. So it's a lot of homages going on here. This is the original Gang War storyline. They did one in the 2025s or so, 2024. But this was the original storyline, just with all the different factions of crime in New York City going up against each other. We've got 286. So the gang war continues. We've got the Rose, who is one of the crime bosses involved. We've got the Hobgoblin, who's all wrapped up in that. We've got Spider-Man trying to keep the peace, trying to keep as few people getting hurt as possible. We jump to Amazing 288. We've got Spider-Man also still in the gang war. The Falcon has gotten involved. Daredevil's gotten involved. The Black Cat in her different suit has gotten involved. Everybody's getting involved in this gang war. Then we go to 289. So things got weird here. There had been a story that showed that Ned Leeds, a reporter at the Daily Bugle, had actually been killed. And then in this story, it's revealed that Ned Leeds, that was killed, was also actually the Hobgoblin, or had been the Hobgoblin. And so, he's being revealed here as who he is, but the character's already dead. And it was just kind of a weird editorial time at Marvel, as I understand it. The fellow named Christopher Priest, who was named Jim Owsley at the time, was an editor. He was fairly young, and things just kind of went in a weird direction with that. That's 289. 290. I always like this cover. Peter Parker asks the big question. I think it's one of his proposals, one of his many proposals. Al Milgrom cover there, so it's one of the better Al Milgrom ones. Then we go to Amazing Spider-Man 292. It's got a Spider-Man going up against the latest iteration of the Spider Slayer. Spider Slayers are a general term for these robots that people create that are designed specifically to attack and kill Spider-Man. And there's usually the person's face that's running it is on a screen. That's like a recurring issue with the Spider Slayers. 293, classic storyline. The Kraven's Revenge, or what is it? I can't remember the name of it now. I'm drawing a blank. But it's the Kraven versus Spider-Man. The original Kraven dies. Spider-Man gets buried alive. He gets better. It's a very lots of narration from Kraven, and it's a well-loved storyline, and that continues through several, the different books. It comes back to this book for part 5. And we get more Mike Zeck goodness on that cover, doing a great Kraven the Hunter rendition there. A few issues later, we're out of that. We're kind of at a normal thing here. Spider-Man fighting Dr. Octopus, as he does, in Amazing Spider-Man 297. You know what we're creeping up on. In fact, we've got one of them right here. We've got 298, Amazing Spider-Man 298, Spider-Man versus Chance. This is the first, I believe, Todd McFarlane artwork on Amazing Spider-Man. Got that beautiful McFarlane cover there. Good stuff, good stuff. And of course, the next one is also a major issue, 299. Continues with the McFarlane art on Amazing Spider-Man. Much desired issue there. Chance was like a mercenary, and his thing was he had cameras in the back of his helmet, so he could see you could see him sneaking up on you, or he could see you sneaking up on him. And my copy of 300. This is my original copy, bought where I was buying comics at the time, and it's what do I think it is? It's about a 9.4. So that's why it's in the top loader. But beautiful Todd McFarlane cover, much homaged cover, very pretty issue. And then we go one more. In the top loaders, we have Amazing 301. So this one is taking the same pose from the previous issue, but Spider-Man had chucked his black costume and gone back to the red and blue. So he did the exact same cover, but with him in the red and blue on this one. And Silver Sable is back. Stuff in the main box. We got 302. Continuing McFarlane. Spider-Man goes up against a guy with some big guns there. Sure. 303. Facing Silver Sable and Sandman. Sandman would end up, I don't know if it's here, but Sandman will end up becoming a good guy again and going to work for, a good guy for the first time, and go to work for Silver Sable as one of her team. We've got 304, Amazing Spider-Man versus the Fox. Got the corner box, direct corner box, has the number and webbing in it. And apparently they did that for a while. Got 305 going up against the Prowler. This is the original Hobie Brown Prowler, if I remember correctly. That Spider-Man deals with here. 5. This is, by the way, it's on sale twice a month at this point, which is no big deal now, but at that time, having a book go on sale twice a month was really cool. Amazing Spider-Man 306 with a Action Comics #1 homage there, as Spider-Man wrecks a police car. No wonder he keeps getting in trouble, and apparently he's facing Humbug in that one. And let's see, 307. We've got this Chameleon cover. I always thought this was a weird cover because it's like he's not actually 100% disguising himself as Spider-Man, but I guess it's supposed to be he's in mid-transformation to look like Spider-Man. So that was just always a really weird cover, which is probably what they were going for. That's Amazing Spider-Man 307. That's in a little bundle. We jump to 310. Spider-Man goes up against Killer Shrike, which is apparently a name of a bird. I had to look that up when I was a kid, but it's a real bird, a Killer Shrike. And he is going back to college to finish up his college degree. Maybe he's getting his PhD at this point, or his master's rather. I lose track of what. I know he's in and out of college a lot, but I lose track of like which degree is he pursuing at each time. 311, Spider-Man up against Mysterio again. For those of you who are big into the second Tom Holland movie, there's your Mysterio again. And then 312, we've got very interesting having Todd McFarlane draw Green Goblin, because it was just the first time he'd been drawn kind of in a modern artist at that point. And you've got Green Goblin going up against Hobgoblin. Given that I don't remember what that was. We're in Inferno. There's demons involved. I don't think that's really the Green Goblin. Inferno being an X-Men crossover where, long story short, demons invaded New York, and the X-Men had to put a stop to it. We've got 313 with Spider-Man going up against the Lizard. Going back to Inferno, we're still in Inferno. This was one of those things where the crossover, they were trying to sell more books by referencing the crossover, even though the crossover wasn't really having a strong bearing on the book itself. It was just kind of a little marketing trick there. 314. The Mary Jane and Peter get kicked out of their condo by their evil landlord, and I seem to remember there being something about him making a pass at Mary Jane and her telling him to take a walk, and that is part of what got them kicked out of their place to live. And she is not yet making supermodel money. She is making starving actress money. So that's it makes a difference. Neither one of them has any money. Amazing Spider-Man 315 versus the Hydro Man, and we've got some Venom action there, and we've got Spider-Man dealing with some underwater action there, dealing with Hydro Man in 315, which brings us to 316, classic Venom appearance, and Spider-Man in battle with the Venom, drawn by McFarlane. Good stuff, good stuff. Out of the top loader box. Then we go to 317. Still dealing with Venom there. Got a cool corner UPC box. Venom appearance there. Looks good. Oh, funny. The world's greatest comic magazine, and you got the thing up there, hey, because that's of course the line for the Fantastic Four. Got a lot of like whimsical stuff going on from editorial during this time, including this line that showed up a lot, the non-mutant superhero, because everybody was big into the X-Men, so they were like trying to say, well, this one's different. It's he's not a mutant. Spider-Man going up against the Scorpion here. And then in 322, he goes up against Ultimatum. This was a 6-part arc, the Assassination Plot. So it's various assassins from various storylines that run by Marvel showed up here. Ultimatum was a group that was all about. They were normally the backup to Flag Smasher, and Flag Smasher's deal was he wanted to do away with all geographic boundaries. We should just be one world, and he's willing to kill people, to make that happen. And we go to a Neato Burrito. Todd McFarlane drawing Captain America, presumably for the first time here, as part of the Assassination Plot. Getting to see what Cap looked like under his penciling. And then that continues we get to see Sabretooth as drawn by Todd McFarlane, and as Spider-Man has to deal with Sabretooth. I don't think Sabretooth was as big a deal at this point as he would be with X-Men, and, you know, being thinking that, you know, creating the idea that he's Wolverine's father or brother, and all those different things that eventually came along. Then we have an art change as somewhere when we jump to 327. We've got Erik Larsen. Some people love him, some people aren't overly fond of him. And Spider-Man is got his cosmic powers. So there's a lot going on, a lot of crossing over here. So he's fighting Magneto from the X-Men. The reason he's fighting Magneto, which is not one of his normal villains, is because this is the Acts of Vengeance crossover, where all the villains decided to go after heroes that they didn't normally go after. You know, they got organized and said, okay, well, maybe we'll change it up, and that way we'll win. Meanwhile, Spider-Man has gotten the cosmic powers from Captain Universe. Captain Universe being kind of just not a person, but an energy force that bounces around and will grant people powers in certain situations. And usually somebody is Captain Universe for a brief amount of time. But so he has the Captain Universe powers here as well, and that puts him in more of a Hulk level strength, you know, category. And this is, of course, the time when the Hulk is gray again. So in the first ever issue of the Hulk, he's gray, because that was what they intended to do, with make him gray. And then they figured out, well, the gray isn't, you know, printing well, so they switched him over to green. So then for years and years, if you ever saw a reprint, they had him as green all along. And then somewhere along this time, they brought back the idea that he had actually been gray at first and had only become green later. And the gray version is more intelligent. He's more of a street thug, which fits in with how his dialogue was written when he first appeared. And so this was during the original Gray Hulk time frame, and we've got you know, some beautiful Todd McFarlane back on the Gray Hulk here. And we go to Amazing Spider-Man 329. Spider-Man goes up against a ultimate Tri-Sentinel. Sentinels normally being things that try to attack, you know, kill mutants. And we're going to find out the startling secret of his extra powers, but I already gave it away, so it is what it is. Spoilers. Amazing Spider-Man 332. Hey, Venom is back, and he's got Erik Larsen back on art. Erik Larsen starts doing these every once in a while, these little boxes with everybody's, you know, head on them. Aunt May is very square-headed, but the classic Venom fight there. Continues into Amazing 333. So we've got Sticks and Stone, I believe their name. Yeah, Sticks and Stone and Venom there that Spider-Man is dealing with. Go to Amazing Spider-Man 336, the Vulture, Chance, Erik Larsen, all kinds of goodness. I guess Mysterio's in there somewhere. Probably not, you know, not the main villain, but he's in there. That's why he only gets to be in the corner in the UPC box. And this is the one, I think, where the Aunt May had a boyfriend, Nathan Lubinsky, and I think this is when he dies. So poor Nathan. Nathan doesn't get brought up much. He died and was forgotten. Amazing Spider-Man 337, The Return of the Sinister Six. So early on in the Amazing Spider-Man, 6 of his villains had gotten together to take him on, and so this is the latest iteration of that. I know that Hobgoblin is replacing Green Goblin. I can't remember rest of them are the originals. But he's got to deal with that fight with dealing with all of them at once. And then we go to Amazing Spider-Man 340. Got the femme fatales, so some evil female supervillains there being introduced by Erik Larsen. Go to 341. So Amazing Spider-Man, the Powerless storyline. So not only does he lose his cosmic powers, he loses his regular powers. So now but because he's Spider-Man, he has responsibility. He's got to try to, save the day still. But unfortunately, I don't know what he's going to do against the Tarantula, who apparently got better from his horrible mutations in the previous issue that we looked at. And the Black Cat is going to show up somewhere. Amazing Spider-Man 343, that storyline still continuing. We've got the Femme Fatales, we've got some Black Cat. Powerless, part 3, or is it 4? Oh, who cares? So they're having a little fun with themselves, and knowing all these crossovers and big storylines and things, but he's got his powers back, so now he can take care of business. 343. All right, 344, Spider-Man, Rhino, Cardiac, kind of an anti-hero, if I remember correctly. I can't remember what Cardiac's deal was. I remember he was a heart surgeon, ergo Cardiac. And I remember he had like a flying, kind of like the Green Goblin's glider, robotic bird thing that he would send places to do things. Let's see, we've got 345, there's a beauty cover, Spider-Man versus Boomerang. Years and years later, like within the last, 10 years, there's a storyline where Peter Parker and Boomerang are actually roommates, and so it's just always funny when you look at past issues and who would have thought that they would do a storyline where they would be roommates after him being just kind of a basic villain for so long. 346. We're getting another big fight with Venom here in Amazing Spider-Man, number 346. We got 347. This is the one where I believe Spider-Man convinced Venom that he was dead, Spider-Man was dead, so Spider-Man would leave him alone, and Venom winds up leaving New York, and it's only later he finds out that Peter's still alive. We got 348. We got the Avengers as they appeared at the time, including Sandman, teaming up with Spider-Man. And then we go to Amazing 352, Nova of the New Warriors. Now we got that Tri-Sentinel back. It should go look for some mutants. Why does it keep coming after these non-mutant heroes? But beauty shot there. And are we in Bagley, Will? Yes, we are in Mark Bagley time. So Mark Bagley, as I mentioned in a previous video, had won a contest, an art contest, and became the regular artist on Amazing Spider-Man, and stayed on it for years and years and years. Went on to Ultimate Spider-Man, has come back to Amazing a few times. He is sort of one of the consummate Spider-Man artists. Round Robin, we have lots of other heroes teaming up with Spider-Man, but not all of them at the same time, I think, except at the end. So each issue had Spider-Man and a couple of heroes, and then they would all team up at the end. And this was all about a guy who had been a sort of sidekick to Moon Knight, or wanted to be Moon Knight's sidekick, and Moon Knight it's basically the plot to The Incredibles, I think. It's the rejected sidekick comes back and makes things rough for everybody. We got Amazing Spider-Man 356, continuing that round robin, and we've got Moon Knight, we've got Night Thrasher, we've got Nova, we've got Punisher. So this is a good this is sort of like Batman Hush in a sense. You know, it's got a lot of just meat to it, a lot of good, a lot of characters in it. We've got. Continue into Amazing Spider-Man 357. The round robin continues. I think this is what 5 of 6. So the next issue will end that. We jump forward a few. We're at 360. Spider-Man, Dalen, and Cardiac teaming up again. We don't ever see Cardiac anymore. Whatever happened to Cardiac? Nobody cares. What about Cardiac? And then we have 361. Did I do that right? Yes. 361, the first appearance of Carnage, the spawn of Venom. Symbiote links up with a crazed serial killer, and you get a Venom who, Venom hates Spider-Man, but he's generally, other than that, not a bad guy, and will, he'll kill criminals. Carnage wants to kill everybody. So that's my copy of Amazing Spider-Man 361. We continue that storyline in Amazing Spider-Man 362. They apparently make peace long enough to both try to go after Spider-Man there, but I believe Venom will decide to change his mind and help out Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man 365. I have no idea if this is going to come across on the camera, but it's 30th anniversary issue. That period of time, they did several of these hologram covers for the Amazing Spider-Man, or for Spider-Man titles. So this is one of them. Amazing Spider-Man has the silver ink look to it. And getting there. We've got Amazing Spider-Man 366. We've got Taskmaster. Hey, Taskmaster is popular right now after that big showing in Thunderbolts. We've got Red Skull, past, present, and we go to Peter's parents, who were apparently secret agents who were killed by the Red Skull because nothing in his life can be normal. And then jump to Amazing Spider-Man 369 versus the Electro. There's some Green Goblin in there. Another Spider Slayer. At least this one doesn't have the face of the guy driving it on the screen on the front of it. Good old Electro there, classic Spider-Man villain. To Amazing Spider-Man 370, going up against the Scorpion with the help of the Black Cat. And hey, beyond get the new Dungeon Quest game while you're at it. And this weird kind of, it's like I think he was going up against weirder and weirder kinds of Spider Slayers along the way here. We go to Amazing Spider-Man 373, continuing that Spider Slayers storyline, and this is the culmination of that. Things aren't looking good for Spider-Man. I wonder if he'll die. Nah, probably not. Let's go to Amazing Spider-Man 374. So this was during the period, speaking of Peter's parents, it wasn't just a flashback. They actually had returned. He thought they were dead. They weren't dead. Spoiler, they really were dead. And they are, but these people that they are going up against Venom, and Spider-Man's going to have to save them. And that's Amazing 374. Jump to 378. Another, cool that cover for Venom versus versus Carnage. This is the Maximum Carnage storyline. Note, this is part 3 of 14. This will run through 14 different issues as they collectively, the Marvel Universe and Spider-Man, deal with Carnage. And of course that continues in Amazing Spider-Man 379. Here we're up to issue 7, so we're halfway through. We have what they call doppelgangers. So in the Infinity War crossover, all of the heroes went up against villainous versions of themselves, and some of them hung around after the crossover was over. So Doppelganger is the evil Spider-Man that Spider-Man fought. Demogoblin was sort of the eviler Hobgoblin that Hobgoblin fought. And of course, I guess that sort of philosophically, there's Carnage, who's sort of an eviler Venom, even though he comes from a different place than that. And then we've got a beauty of Mark Bagley cover of the Incredible Hulk teaming up with Spider-Man. This is when he was in what we call the Professor Hulk time frame. It's as if he's the Hulk with Banner's brain, although we find out later that's not exactly true. But he is a smart, easy to get along with version of the Hulk. But of course, he no longer gets angry, so he no longer gets stronger, but just because he's angry. Amazing Spider-Man 383, Trial by Jury. This was like some armored dudes trying to bring in Venom to justice, and I think they went after Spider-Man because they just blame him for Venom being around. One of them is wearing a knockoff of the Guardsman's armor. The Guardsman is a couple of guys have been the Guardsmen over in Iron Man. Iron Man built that armor as kind of a second, when he couldn't be Iron Man, this other guy was going to be the Guardsman. And I've always loved that armor. That's not necessarily the greatest shot of it, but there's just something, that green armor looks really cool. When we get to Iron Man, we'll have a better look at it. But one of these armored guys that's what he's wearing is a Guardsman armor. Then we go to Amazing Spider-Man 387, Life Theft. So Vulture figures out a way to steal life energy from people because he's old and he wants to not be old. So he figures out a way to suck the life out of people, and one of them apparently is Peter. Right there. And 388, but that didn't last. I don't even think that really happened. I think that was just a cover. In Amazing Spider-Man 388, Peter's parents, he loses them again, finds out what they really were. So I'm not gonna spoil that one, which is another way of me saying I don't really remember. Then we go to Amazing Spider-Man 391, Spider-Man up against Shriek, who was kind of a side chick to Carnage, and had been in, she was in that Maximum Carnage. She just wasn't in any of the covers we looked at, but she was a part of that big crossover, and so he's dealing with her separately here in 391. 392, we get to the Shrieking is that name of that crossover where he's fighting her. And something about that fight, just he's not going to be Peter Parker. He's not going to be Peter Parker anymore. He's got too much to do with Spider-Man to be Peter Parker anymore. What the deal? Now I don't know how he thinks he's going to, pay for his meals, but whatever. Groceries. Amazing Spider-Man. We jump to 396. Daredevil in his black armor phase as he was during that time frame, and back from the Edge. I think this is, Daredevil helps Spider-Man understand he can't just be Spider-Man all the time. He needs to also be Peter. We all have to be Peter every once in a while. Amazing Spider-Man 397, Web of Death. So this was very much a period when we were everything was running from book to book, series to series. So here we're in the Web of Death, part 1 of 4. It's a flip book with, I think this was the one that had like a text story on the other side. That it was a book that was actually being, a regular book that was being published, and it was an excerpt from that book. And Stunner here, who is quite the stunner is going up against Spider-Man and on behalf of Doc Ock. And let me jump to who wants to see 400 when we can see 401. Spider-Man's on the run. I believe that Kane is sort of the evil clone of Spider-Man, and I believe he frames Peter Parker for something because of course, they look the same. And so Peter Parker has to decide, is he going to go to jail? Is he going to break out of jail to stop Kane? What's he going to do? So that was part of that. And last but not least, this last pack, hang in there. We've got Spider-Man dealing with, what was this guy's name? Traveler something, I think. And he has captured Aunt May's soul in a thing, and to make Spider-Man do what he wants, and Spider-Man's going to have to deal with that. And then the last one in this box, we have Amazing Spider-Man number 406, 404. We've got Scarlet Spider being the in this book, and we've got a new Dr. Octopus, and this is the greatest responsibility. So we're deep into this the Clone Saga Part 2 at this point, and that's the last one in this box. That's it. We next time we will hit the next box, which will finish up Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1 and get into a big chunk of Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please comment, follow, do all that stuff. Give me some feedback. Let me know how it's going. I know this is kind of a weird channel, but let me know what you think, and I hope you have a great day.